On average, I want to know how many of you guys still play Marvel's Avengers on like a weekly basis. Is it once or twice? Is it more? Let me know in the comments below. But Marvel's Avengers, is it on its last legs? Absolutely. The next 90 days is really where it boils down to. In all honesty, at that point, it's just going to be completely put the game on the side, it collects dust situation. Now, we know the game is free to play on Xbox, but what does that even mean? So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. But before I do, we got a really cool sponsor, so let me roll the ad and then we'll continue into the video. Today's video is sponsored by Idle Firefighter Tycoon, which is an awesome free-to-play fire station simulator game available on iOS and Android, where you earn money and become rich in the game. Now, the game's idle feature is just incredible. The game will literally continue to work and make in-game money for you when you get back into the game, and then they also have some amazing events on top of that. Now, they just launched live ops so that players can go ahead and compete in weekly in-game events from Mondays to Sundays, and players will be able to build up their fire stations in tropical paradise in these events. Now, they always have new content too, just tons of stuff going on in this game. It looks phenomenal as well, and you can also play in 2 cities with 3 challenging fire stations in each of them. Now, additionally to fire trucks, you can also upgrade to ambulances to help fight emergencies in your cities. Now, to add to that, there are also new emergencies, so you can not only just extinguish fires in the city, but also in the tropical paradise now with fireboats. For each solved emergency, you can go ahead and get a chest to open as well. It's a super fun and addicting game. Honestly, you will be missing out if you don't try it out. So what are you waiting for? Check out the link in the description below. So what do I mean about Marvel's Avengers being on its last legs, and what do I mean more specifically when I say about the next 90 days? Well, I've seen tons and tons of comments of you guys saying, well, we know this game relies heavily on the marketplace, but honestly, I think enough is enough for this game just coming to the PlayStation Plus, now the Xbox Game Pass, right? Let's be realistic. How many sales is this game still making? I genuinely don't know the answer to that. By the way, that's just me being, I guess me just asking you guys if somebody knows the answer to that. On an average monthly basis, how many copies is this game still selling? The reason why I asked that question is because we know the answer to the fact that yes, they do rely on the marketplace, but aren't we just better off making the game a free-to-play game at this situation? At this time, should I say, in this situation? Absolutely, 100%. Let me further explain what I mean by that. Even if the game is still getting a few sales, right? I guess it doesn't even really matter because we know they are heavily dependent on the marketplace. Now, let's just put it into perspective. The people that are playing the game for the first time this weekend on the Xbox Game Pass are genuinely going to love it because there's tons of stuff. There's 9 heroes. There's a ton of stuff going on with the campaign. It's going to genuinely be fun for you, right? As opposed to all of us rookies that, I guess, or should we call ourselves veterans now at this moment in time, right? When we first experienced the game, it wasn't exactly, per se, the best game in the entire world. So we experienced that rocky start, but for people playing it right now, they're genuinely gonna really enjoy themselves because it's a great game. Like, it genuinely is a really fun game to play had you have not basically done all of this stuff separate. Now, my point is, the only way this game is going to survive, especially, right, taking into account that the Spider-Man DLC, to an extent, is the only big thing that this game is going to have for a while, right? Like, I'm still excited to further understand next year's roadmap, but realistically, for a while, until we find out that information and until we actually get our hands on that new DLC content, Spider-Man is the only DLC that we know is going to be fun for this game. Other than that, it's very much a mystery, right? We kind of know what to expect, but you never kind of know at the same time. What is the problem right now? Well, in short, the problem is coming to PlayStation Plus and going to Xbox Game Pass. It's just boring at this point because we know they want to get players. Why not just make the game a free-to-play? And for the people that will go ahead and say, well, why did I spend $60 or more on the game? I think they should just go ahead and give us in-game credits or something that is just going to make us be quiet, right? Because that would naturally just be the follow-up question if the game did go for a free-to-play route, right? I would even say, well, why did I pay $60 for the game? But in turn, it's not the first time we would have seen something like that. because we equally know that they've given us in-game rewards in the past for, you know, simple mistakes, right? So technically it's not a loss on their behalf because they're still going to be making skins. Should they go and put more effort into the skins consistently, then yes, the game will see even more sales without a doubt. But I just think it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to keep doing this strategy of make the game free to play on PlayStation, then Steam, then Xbox. It's just not really cutting it, because it's obvious you get the player numbers because people do enjoy the game, they know what it's worth now, but nobody still wants to buy the game at all, I think, especially when they know they've got to pay for the skins, and some skins are great. So if you're heavily dependent on skins, doesn't it just make sense to do that? Now, I don't know if there's like a certain revenue deal when it comes down to Sony and the Spider-Man DLC in terms of how many extra copies the game sells through specific links maybe on like I don't know. I have no idea how that side of the business is working, right? But I know technically there are certain sort of like ways you can have these tracking elements in place, like to buy directly through a specific link if there's a Spider-Man DLC, etc. But again, I don't know what deal is in place, so I don't even know if something like that can exist right now in this specific moment for this game. But the point is, at that point, if it comes down to selling loads of cosmetic skins for Spider-Man, and that's a revenue deal, a further revenue deal they have with Sony, then it would make sense to make the game free to play so people could spend their money in the marketplace. Because let's be honest, it would be not necessarily okay, but it kind of would be okay because you haven't paid for the game, so you are going into the game with the expectation that if you want this skin, you will have to pay for it, and you will be more than happy to pay for it because you haven't paid for the base game, although now the base game is actually worth a good $60 and more because of the content it has, but it's not even valued at that much now anyway. So either way, you're never going to buy the game for $60. It's really cheap at this moment in time, unless you genuinely wanted to get ripped off and go somewhere else and pay a ridiculous amount. Then I'm sure there is somebody out there that's selling it for like $100. But the point still stands. If you're going down that road, it's just an absolute no-brainer to have it as a free-to-play game. And from a consumer, at this point, that's what's really annoying, because we just go round and round in circles that, you know, we don't really know where we stand with the game. I mean, sure, we do in the sense of we've been told there's more content, but in terms of we know they're really heavily reliant on this marketplace. Some skins are great, some skins are bad, but we need a new player base. There needs to be a big enough amount of people playing the game in order to still go, you know, through with the game's progression in terms of adding new content, etc. Because believe me, we have been told before by multiple developers that, hey, we're still continuing development on the game, and then they just vanish, and then you find out that they're not doing it after you get to a point when you figured it was cut off anyway, right? So at this point, that's where we stand with the game, and that's when I say the game's on its last legs, because it's solely reliant on Spider-Man. And no, this is not a negative video, by the way. This is me just talking about how I see the situation and trying to make sense of the situation, because like I said, if you are playing the game for the first time right now, it's a great game. It genuinely is really, really fun. You're going to have an absolute blast. But for the veterans, like I said, like myself and you guys have been watching for a long time, it is going to be a lot more difficult to want to buy more skins and whatever it is, right? Because eventually some skins are not great, and we know they're reliant on that, and then we know it's just going round and round and round in circles. Hopefully you get my point. But guys, that's going to wrap up this video here. What do you think on it? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, have yourselves a ridiculously amazing day, and adios amigos.